Well, hi everyone. My name is JP Duane, and I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my video presentation of my Capstone research project entitled Technology Usage in Sports and the Implementation of eLearning to Enhance Player Development. Let's get started off with a quote. Wisdom is always an overmatch for strength. Phil Jackson, 11-time NBA championship winning coach. We'll get started by introducing you to the topic and getting you some background. To start, this is a sports-focused research project. When discussing competition and the competitive edge, the higher the level you attain, the smaller the margin of error to achieve victory. At the highest professional levels, the margin of error to determine victory and defeat can be as little as 3%. 3% is the difference between finishing first or last in your league. Now let's get a little more into the background. Key performance indicators, KPIs, for this study will be ball possession and turnover margin. Time of possession of the ball has been a statistic kept in most field sports. Possession of the ball is required in most sports for the team to score. Turnovers thus lead to both a lost opportunity for your team to score, but also gives more chances for your opponent to score. Aaron 2016 found when it came to NFL teams winning the turnover margin by just one increased their chances of winning by 69.6%. Likewise, winning the turnover margin by two increase your percentage to 83.9%, and three turnovers would increase it to 90.7%. In comparison, home field advantage only increases chances of winning by 57.2%. Key factors that can lead to reduced KPIs are unforced errors, mental mistakes, and rule violations. In individual sports like pickleball and tennis, players with the fewest unforced errors account for up to a 70% winning ratio. This is where we get into the statement of the problem and the significance of the study. In this study, I'm trying to identify if implementing an e-learning platform can reduce the key factors, thus creating a competitive edge in the KPIs. Unique to this study is the key component of implementing an e-learning platform into the athletic environment. There have been numerous research studies conducted in sports. However, those studies are little to non-existent when talking about knowledge retention. And increasing one's knowledge of the sport will ultimately help the athlete reach their full potential. As Bill Parcells once said, dumb players do dumb things, smart players rarely do. The three research questions for this study are: first, how frequently do coaches use e-learning and other technological tools in their coaching? And can the implementation of an e-learning platform that encompasses all aspects of the game and all support staff section reduce the number of turnovers, forced errors, and mental mistakes throughout the season? Second, what is the best way to implement an e-learning platform into your sports team? Third, what is the overall interest of coaches to implement an e-learning program into their team? My literature review focused on sports in general. Athlete knowledge, coaches knowledge. At the end of the day, it is what the athlete knows, not what the coach knows, that will lead to successful outcomes. It's the coach's job to transfer that knowledge to the athlete. Ball and play time. Consider ball and play time. Gordon, 2023, found rugby league ball and play time averaged 63 minutes out of an 80-minute match. That's 67% of the match. In comparison, 60% of the time for soccer, 50 to 55% for basketball and ice hockey, 35 to 40% for rugby union, and 5.79% for American football. Also take into account, of the 20 most popular sports worldwide by athlete participation, 65% of them do not have timeouts. Taking ball and play time and the lack of timeouts into consideration, those are times the coach does not have direct access to the athletes, meaning that during those times, it is only athlete knowledge that can be relied upon. The scope. E-learning in sports. Knowledge and performance improvement in team athletics. turnover and unforced errors in athletics, mental mistakes in athletics, and sports. Theoretical concept. Richard Mayer's 8 principles of the cognitive theory of multimedia learning and the benefits of e-learning. Mayer theorizes that learning is enhanced when information is presented through multiple channels, specifically verbal and nonverbal. The theory is structured around 8 key principles. 1. Dual coding. Learners process information through separate cognitive channels for verbal and nonverbal content. 2. Multimedia principle. Learning is more effective when words and images are combined rather than presented in isolation. 3. Modality principle. Multimedia content should align with the material being taught. 4. Coherence principle. Unnecessary information that does not contribute to learning should be removed. 5. Signaling principle. Cues should be used to direct the learner's attention to key information. 6. Redundancy principle. Avoid redundant information to prevent cognitive overload. 7. Spatial continuity principle. Proximity between words and corresponding images enhances understanding. 8. Temporal continuity principle. Simultaneous presentation of audio and visual information optimizes learning. Mayer's theory emphasizes the importance of managing cognitive load to ensure effective learning. It highlights how e-learning can facilitate the transfer of knowledge from working memory to long-term memory by leveraging prior knowledge and providing continuous access to learning resources. This makes e-learning an efficient and cost-effective tool that accommodates diverse learning needs, allows for content repetition, and ensures consistent quality. Findings. The literature review suggests that e-learning can play a significant role in sport education by enhancing motivation, promoting skill development, and facilitating knowledge retention. As more coaches enter the profession and become familiar with e-learning systems, the adoption of these platforms is likely to increase. Additionally, experienced coaches who are confident in their methods are also likely to embrace e-learning tools, further integrating technology into sport coaching and athlete development. Recent updates that could play a role in helping driving this research forward are the 2024 releases of e-learning platforms by both World Athletics and USA Rugby. Research methodology. A survey was designed consisting of 60 questions divided into the following categories: 21 demographic, 8 educational principles, 2 cognitive load theory, 15 use of technology in e-learning, 2 cognitive theory of multimedia learning, 6 sports data, and 6 sports psychology. The pool of respondents I was looking for in this study were coaches from around the world with varying educational backgrounds and coaching experiences. The first type of questions I will address are the quantitative. There were 2 types, yes, no, and scale. Starting with yes, no. No questions were associated with a point value of 1 and yes was 2. Next, we have scale questions with 2 different scales provided. They were the never, 1 point, rarely, 2 points, sometimes 3, often 4, and always 5. And the very ineffective 1, ineffective 2, neutral 3, effective 4, or very ineffective 5 questions. The second type of question was qualitative, which also had 2 types: select all that applies and scale. The scale selected for qualitative questions was very negatively, somewhat negatively, neutral, somewhat positively, and very positive. Data collection and analysis. For data collection and analysis, the survey consisted of 60 questions. There was 21 of those were demographic and 39 were response. Of the 21 demographic questions, 14 were ultimately selected. The 14 demographic questions used to analyze the data were age, gender, educational level, the primary setting for coaching, coaching experience, primary sport coached, team size, hours spent coaching per week, coaching role, number of assistant coaches working with, how many training sessions conducted per week, duration of the training session, gender of the athletes coached, and the age range of the athletes coached. Of the 39 response questions, I ultimately selected 14 qualitative and quantitative questions. That breakdown was 4 quantitative and 10 qualitative. Those questions came out of the categories educational principles, 1 question, and use of technology in e-learning, 13. Respondent information. There was a total of 31 respondents who replied to the survey. One was removed for being an outlier due to what was assessed as the respondent having no direct role with athletes in the sports setting, leaving 30 viable respondents. The respondents' demographics were found to be worldwide with respondents from 4 different continents. Over half the respondents had more than 21 years plus coaching experience with varying educational levels, from high school diploma to master's degree, with respondents ranging from high school to professional coaches. Data collection and analysis, quantitative. Here you have a summary chart of my somewhat significant findings. Starting across the top, you have the column headings. The headings are question reference, the 2-number question identification. The first number refers to the research question, and the second number refers to the response question used to try and answer that question. Next is the question demographic category. This listed will be one of the 14 demographic used to analyze the questions. The next column is demographic, which are the sub-demographics under the demographic category. Next, we have the mean, followed by the standard deviation, then standard error. Next is the sigma. Of note, in my research, a difference of 2 standard errors was considered significant. Please note that none of these categories meet that 2 sigma standard, and that is why I refer to them as somewhat significant findings, as no 2 sigma findings were found in the study. However, by adjusting the sigmas, I was able to identify somewhat significant findings. Please note the sigmas range from 1.39 to 1.78. The last column is standard error range. This is plus or minus the standard error times the sigma. Please note none of these ranges overlap. Once there was no overlap, the finding is deemed significant. Let's take the first reference question. The question associated with the first one is, how frequently do coaches use e-learning and other technical tools in their coaching? And can the implementation of an e-learning platform that encompasses all aspects of the game and all support staff sections reduce the number of turnovers, unforced errors, and mental mistakes throughout a season? The second one refers to the question, how frequently do you use technology in your coaching? The finding here was that male coaches respond being more likely to use technology than female coaches. Next, we will look at the findings from 3.1. Please note there were 2 demographics that stood out on this question. The 3 refers to the question, what is the coach's overall interest in implementing an e-learning program into their team? The 1 refers to the question, how interested are you in implementing an e-learning program into your team? The 2 categories that provided insight were type of sport and hours spent coaching per week. Team sports reported more interest than individual sports, while coaches who spent more than 21 hours per week also reported more interest in implementing e-learning than were coaches who spent less than 20 hours per week. The last finding was 3.2. Again, the 3 references the question, what is the coach's overall interest in implementing an e-learning program into their team? and the 2 refers to the question, how effective do you find e-learning tools for coaching? The data showed here that coaches who spent 20 hours or less found e-learning to be more effective. It is interesting to note that the respondents least likely to use e-learning are the ones who find it most effective. Data analysis, qualitative. There was a total of 10 questions. 9 select all that applies questions were used. The last option for each question was the other option and allowed respondents with the option to write any response not listed. The other option was used in 5 out of the 9 questions by at least one respondent. One scale question was used and was selected as qualitative because it asked respondents to interpret the feelings of their athletes. No demographics were used to compare responses to. The results are listed by the number of responses given. The questions were coded into 3 categories, one based on each research question. The first code, based on the research question 1, how frequently do coaches use e-learning and other technological tools in their coaching? And can the implementation of an e-learning platform that encompasses all aspects of the game and all sports staff section reduce the number of turnovers, unforced errors, and mental mistakes throughout a season? The responses provided under this code showed respondents were not afraid to use technology and even use technology for their own personal development. The second code question of what is the best way to implement an e-learning platform into a sports team, the theme responses under this code showed key factors to be training for all stakeholders, ease of access and use, ability to communicate better, cost of implementation, technical issues, and athlete feedback. The third code question, what is the coach's overall interest in implementing an e-learning program into their team? The theme revealed here is that coaches remain neutral in how they think athletes would respond to an e-learning platform. Interpretations of the findings in this study revealed several key insights into the use of technology, particular e-learning in sports coaching. Despite the significant advancements in educational technology over the past 2 decades, its integration into sports sector remains limited. This study's hypothesis that the most successful coaches view themselves as teachers who focus on implementing knowledge into their athletes is supported by the data. Coaches emphasize the importance of athletes' understanding of the game and applying that knowledge to achieve competitive results. However, the adoption of e-learning platforms in sports is surprisingly low. The data indicate that while coaches are open to using various forms of technology such as video analysis and mobile apps, e-learning tools specifically are underutilized. Only a small percentage of respondents currently use e-learning platforms, and interest in implementing these tools remains moderate. Additionally, the study also highlights a discrepancy in technology use based on demographics. Male coaches and those involved in team sports or who spend more time coaching per week are more likely to use technology. These findings suggest that there are underlying factors such as traditional coaching methods, perceived relevance, or technological comfort that influence the adoption of e-learning in sports. The qualitative response suggests that while coaches see potential benefits in e-learning, such as improved communication and access to resources, they also foresee significant challenges. These include technical issues, cost, and time constraints. Lastly, there is a perception that athletes might resist e-learning, although this is not strongly supported by the data. In summary, the research indicates that while technology is widely used in sports coaching, the integration of e-learning platforms is still in its infancy. Coaches recognize the potential benefits, but are hesitant due to perceived challenges and the existing demands of their roles. The study supports the hypothesis that successful coaches act as educators, but reveals a gap in how technology is applied to enhance the cognitive aspect of athlete learning. Future research. Future research should explore strategies to overcome the barriers identified in this study, technical issues, cost, and time constraints. Investigating the effectiveness of specific e-learning tools in different sports contexts could provide more tailored solutions. Additionally, research should examine athletes' actual responses to e-learning to better understand the perceived resistance and identify ways to increase engagement. Longitudinal studies could also assess the long-term impact of e-learning on athlete performance and development, providing further insights into the value of integrating these technologies into sports coaching. I'd like to say mahalo and thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, feedback, or would like to collaborate on a project, please feel free to contact me at my information below. I have my phone number, email, website, and LinkedIn account. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.